I'm, of course, very pleased to be here in front of you, and I thank the American Freedom Alliance, thank Karen, thank Guy Millier that extended the invitation. I must tell you, I'm very impressed by the quality of the speaker, of the analysis. Believe me, I've been to many conventions, and I can tell you that it's really high level today, practically and in terms of intellectual input. Yeah, I think we can, and I'm pleased to see friends that I haven't seen for years, like Stephen Wolf, that, or people that are my neighbors, but like Mr. Baudet, that we have been talking on the phone and we have to be in Los Angeles to finally meet. So I'm Belgian. And to be Belgian, and I will explain, has a lot of defects and few qualities. And one of the qualities is to be very pragmatic. So I'll try to link the dots with all what we have heard this morning and explain you what are the consequences on the ground, what I went through in Belgium. And I think you will understand more, and you will see also that maybe Belgium, or at least Wallonia, French-speaking Belgium, is maybe one step ahead in the strategy of the globalists against our camp, let's say, called our camp. So in a few words first about Belgium and Wallonia. Belgium is at the heart of Europe. From Brussels, you are an hour and a half to Paris in train, 2 hours to Amsterdam, 2 hours in train to London, 2 hours to Frankfurt. It's really at the center of Europe. Of course, Brussels is capital of Belgium and is capital of Europe. And Belgium, and certainly Wallonia, where I come from, is certainly the most postmodern country or region, and certainly one of the sickest. I will explain why and how. First of all, a few figures that you understand, okay? Belgium is approximately 11 million people, 1 million that came within the last 10 years, mostly migrants from Africa, North Africa, Muslim in the largest majority. We are in Brussels, capital of Europe and capital of Belgium. There are already approximately 45% of Muslim people. Within 5 to 7 years, according to demographic studies, they will have the majority. Almost at the regional parliament, almost half of them are already Muslim MPs. If the trends continue, both in terms of natural growth from inside and also the migration at the trends we have known, statisticians estimate that within not 40 or 50 years, but 2035, 2037, there could be a Muslim majority in Belgium, in the heart of Europe. Let me give you a few other figures about Wallonia. So speaking parts, approximately 4 million inhabitants. Unemployment rate is 20%. The work coming from the public sector represents approximately 60%. All this is financed by Flanders. The socialists are in power in an uninterrupted way for the last 50 years in Wallonia. This explains, of course, the situation also. And we are really a postmodern country in the sense that basically the Belgians, and more precisely the Walloons, do not believe in anything anymore. According to Pew Research, we are the most atheistic country. And if we don't, for the Muslim, would be the full champion, but since we have Muslims, so people do not believe in anything. We are the country with the highest rate of use of antidepressants. And basically, there is absolutely no sense of national feeling. certainly Belgian feeling, the Flemish, the northern part, yes, Flemish feeling, but the Walloon absolutely no feeling towards Belgium or even towards Wallonia, do not believe in anything. And in terms of value, we are also the fully postmodern. So we went through reform without almost no debates. We got first homosexual marriage, there was no debate at the parliament. We had homosexual adoption. We have one of the most lax euthanasia legislation in the world, which means that, for example, you have people that just that are suffering from illnesses, only nervous illnesses, okay? Nothing, just that they are very unhappy and suffering from it. There have been cases of euthanasia for this reason. And we're also one of the only countries in the world where you can have euthanasia for children without their consent. And of course, there are already many cases of abuse in that respect. So this is basically where we are in Belgium. So let me give you a few words about myself. I'm a lawyer by training and profession, and for 20 years, I've been one of the leading lawyers in my country, basically leading battles in corporate and finance affairs. And it culminated in 2008 after the financial crisis, where I presented individual shareholders against the Belgian government, against the big financial groups in Europe. The government had to resign, so they tried to interfere in the cases. People from our Supreme Court were prosecuted because of these interferences and so on. And I decided to enter into politics because I wanted to try to change things. In Wallonia, I'm from Wallonia. You know, this socialism for 40 years, this unemployment, this postmodern feeling, and the fact that nobody doesn't believe, and of course, migration, all these questions. So I entered into politics in 2009, at the end of 2009, and from, you know, I was kind of a white knight from the legal profession, you know, fighting on behalf of the little guy, and in a few months, I become the dark knight, you know, of politics. Because of my position. You know, before that, until 2008, I was on all media, on TV programs. I was, you know, on the cover of the magazine, repeatedly, you know, on the main page of the newspaper for all the cases I've handled, you know. Very proud. I was, for example, represented the Jewish community for the looted assets, you know, in Belgium. I got, you know, at that time, 100 million from the government and the banks. So I was in a lot of in the media. In a few months, I've seen that because of my position, I mean, things changed completely, drastically. Boycott, I will explain what I mean by boycott. And just because I was in favor of restricting migration, I was in favor of restricting public spending, you know, I was in favor of just alternance, you know, at the government. Of course, they were a bit embarrassed to characterize myself as a racist or whatever. I'm Jewish myself. Part of my family perished in the Holocaust. My father was arrested by the Gestapo as a resistant when he was 16 and spent months, you know, in their jail. So it was a bit difficult to assassinate me, you know, because of this background and more generally my position. So when I say that, and you will see that in fact, Belgium and Wallonia certainly is a kind of guinea pig of what could happen. Because in order to fight what they call the populist, they just, in Wallonia at least, suppress totally democracy and free speech. It's not in Wallonia that they are fighting us. They just don't talk about us and do not and deny us any access to the media. I mean by this, I fought hard, and in 2014, I got approximately 6% of the votes at the election, got some MPs nationally at the national parliament and regional parliaments. And as from there, I mean, since then, I wasn't even invited one time in a debate on the TVs in 5 years. So you have all the debates, and it's as if you don't exist. When they poll, I swear this is the reality, when they poll, they mention the result on TV in the evening, and they mention the parties above you, they mention the parties after you, and they don't mention you on the polls. They come with claim, for example, of gender equality. At the European election that took place, my wife was running as the head of the list, and she was the only woman. There were 7 lists running for national European election in Wallonia. She was the only woman, and she was the only one not to be invited at the debates, on TV, wherever. I mean, it's not only on debates on TV and so on. It's debate made by organization, whatsoever nature, you know, organization, association of companies or trade unions or cultural organization. They invited everybody except us. So it's not that they are fighting by saying, okay, you are racist or you are fascist, or from time to time they do that. But basically, it's by just denying your existence, your presence. And I want to tell you that our Prime Minister, Monsieur Michel, I know fairly well, has been, as you know, maybe appointed as the President of the Council of Ministers of Europe. He will take his job in 2 months. You have the President of the Commission, Mrs. van der Leyen, a German, and you have the President of the Council of Ministers, Mr. Michel. And one of the reasons when he was chosen by the head of state to become the president is that he successfully fought the populists at home. But this was at the cost of democracy. They just denied our existence by depriving us of any. And you know, I try to fight hard, you know, this, create my own media, Le Peuple, set up my own studio and so on. And we are fairly successful and good on internet and social media. But the fact is that the reality is that the social media, without the mainstream media that legitimates yourself, are inefficient. And it's not me that says it. There's no studies. I'm making studies in Oxford. It's one of the Dutch women called Mrs. de Jong. She just made a thesis in Oxford about this, and also in Paris recently, saying, okay, they fought successfully populists by denying at the cost of democracy, at the cost of just journalism, because journalists believe that they don't have to invite you. Not only the politicians, the journalists. They decide for themselves what is fair, what is right, and what is not. And what is not in their own eyes, most of them are leftist or green, with a green card, green sense of a political, not the American green card, but the Green Party. And so they believe that this is the responsibility to decide what the public, the lectors or the auditors can hear or read. I want to tell you that, so I wasn't also, I tried to fight this in court. And you, remember you, I'm a lawyer, I've been the litigator of my life, a fairly successful one, so I think we had a very strong case in terms of discrimination and so on. I went to the court, the Brussels court, and there was a first ruling that says you don't evidence that you have a damage by not being on the TV. Well, as a political party, you don't evidence as a political party that the fact that they are holding all the debates without you cause you any damage. That would improve your status. Worse than that, I came back against in what we call summary proceedings afterwards, attacking on a different angle, and there the court finally decided that they couldn't rule. Don't say you are right or wrong. I cannot rule because I cannot rule according to some EU jurisprudence. I cannot force a media in summary proceedings to have you on the debate, to be on the network, because it would be an infringement on their freedom of expression. What about my freedom of expression? So that's why I think that the Brussels experience, the Walloon experience, the French-speaking experience is very frightening. It is very frightening. And by the way, in order to protest against this system, I've dissolved my party. And I've said a few months ago, I've said, I cannot caution anymore a system where democracy is just negated and suppressed. I cannot. So I've decided basically for years to act, on an international level too. And you have to know that when Trump was only one of the candidates, the 12 candidates or 13 candidates, I made a video, it was in January or February 2016, basically with the message, America shouldn't become another Europe. And this message was seen by 3 million Americans at that time. It was on all, maybe some of you have seen it, some crazy Belgian, politician supporting this crazy guy, Trump. He was just one of the 12 or 13. And so, and after he was elected, I sent a memo to Trump and to Bannon and his administration, say, okay, listen, after the Brexit, I'm close to Nigel Farage. After the Brexit, after your election, what's happening has to become global. The movement has to become global. And a year ago, I was contacted by Steve Bannon through Nigel Farage, and we have set up an organization called The Movement in order to unite all the populist force, not only in Europe, in the world, to make the link between Trump, the Farage and the Brexit, the Europeans, Bolsonaro, which is a member of the movement already, and so on. Not easy, because, everybody comes with his own DNA and jealousies and so on. We have still a long, long way to go. But I hope that we'll do something with the movement and achieve something ultimately, because usually the populists, we are all fairly isolated in our countries. And we face always the same problem. The mainstream media, of course, the opponent, the mainstream establishment, and the deep state. Look at what happened with Trump, with Mueller, with today with the impeachment. I mean, it's clearly set. When you see that from the other side, it's a full setup, obviously. Look at Salvini. Yeah, it has to be said. Look at Salvini. After a month in power, he was already indicted because he kept some migrants on a ship. He was indicted. I want to give, again, my own experience. I've been a lawyer for 20 years, without any problem. The first year I entered into politics, I got under investigation immediately. My house was raided and searched 3 times in 2010. 3 times. 3 times, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, 25 people arriving, police, district attorney, investigative magistrate, dean of the bar. Not 1 time, not 2 times, 3 times. It led to nowhere after they tried, a lot to find things and so on. When they saw it led to nowhere, they started again 2 years ago, 4th time. And I can tell you there is no mobster in Belgium that has been searched or read it, is read more than 2 times. But this is the way it goes. And that's why we have to reinforce each other. And that's why these kind of conferences today are so important. No? Yeah? But I also want to tell you that language is very important. And we have to not to miss the target of our audiences. And the target are the young people. And you don't talk to the young people like we talk today. Because unfortunately, they don't understand the concept very often. If you talk communism to young people today, maybe not in Poland because, the experience is very fresh, but if you talk communism to young people, they don't understand what it means, unfortunately. Let me give you another example. I was saying in a speech, I was talking about what we call the fifth columns. What the fifth columns, of people during Second World War for sabotage and so on. So I was talking about fifth column, and I realized that many people under 30 years old didn't know what it meant. So we have to find the right languages, not to miss our target. And yesterday I was with Bannon in New York, and it told me frightening poll he had just got, and And women, you know, young women under 30, educated, I mean, over 90% reject Trump and his policies. They have never seen such figures in the polls. I mean, such unanimity, almost unanimity. So we are certainly missing our target, you know, for the young generation, and we have certainly to see and adapt. I mean, the concept we all share today and value, freedom and so on, have not the same meaning for them. And we'll have really to adapt. One last thing I would like to tell you. I was happy to hear reference to the Bible, what I call the Torah and the Bible, because the Bible says something very important about sovereignty. Two things. One, indeed, and there's a great book about, and I recommend it to you, it's called The Virtue of Nationalism. I recommend it to you. And it says in the Bible that it instructs us to be nationalists. And the Bible says to the Jews, you conquer Canaan, okay, and this is your land, and you will be master of your land. But you do not meddle, you do not mingle with the interests of the other countries. That's nationalism. I take care of my own people, but I don't try to impose my vision to the other. If not, it's imperialism. That's one thing. And secondly, I want to tell you, when you look at the prophecies about redemption and so on, and you know, the last time, if Mashiach comes, I mean, he will be a judge among the nations. Don't say that there will be just one humanity coming. There will be still 70 nations. So the importance of keeping the nations, everybody with no boundaries, with its culture, is fundamental, and it's deeply enshrined, you know, in the basic principle as the Torah, the Bible lay them. Thank you.